I think maybe you can deal with some announcements, just so we don't have to deal with that once we do get that quorum. Just want to make sure that any visitors are sitting up here up front, and you get your tags on. Only registered voters in the town can vote at the town meeting, and visitors can speak with I guess, the approval of the meeting. Unless the moderator deems it necessary for the town's deliberation to hear from visitors, and department heads are authorized to speak at town meeting. Everybody hear me okay? If you do want to speak, raise your hand and be recognized. If I recognize you, then state your name and your address. I don't know. You guys have someone that can run this microphone around? Okay. This meeting is being broadcast on Channel 9, is it? Let's see, what else do we need to... Okay. All right. All motions must be in writing and brought to the clerk. Direct any comments or questions to me as the chair. Matters finally voted on tonight may be reconsidered upon a majority vote if a motion's made this evening. If the meeting goes to a second night, let's hope not, then it would require a 9/10 vote to be reconsidered. If I call the vote and my call of vote is questioned by seven people, the counters will be brought out to take a vote. If I'm uncertain about what the call is, then the counters will also be called. And we've got Mr. Funioli. Rebecca, are you willing to be a counter? Who else can we get here? Mr. Baldwin, would you serve as a counter? You're too old. Okay. Oh, that's right. You never learned to count above 7, right? Any other volunteers? Mr. DeVolis? All right, there's 3. We would need one more. All right. Oh. Sue Schufert? All right. Would you guys all rise? Brian Funioli, Sue Schufert, Lynn DeVolis, and Rebecca, I'm sorry, what's your last name? Sturdivant. And Susan, yeah. All right. You want to swear in for here? Hopefully you will not have any duties to perform tonight, but just in case. Thank you. All right. Now, let's see. I guess we have all the town officials. I think here we can be introduced. As you know, I'm John Barrett, town moderator, and we have the town treasurer, Melissa Dunnett, here. Also, we have Jane. No, that's Jane. Jane Friedman on the other side is our town council tonight, standing in for Adam Costas. Miss me up. Katie Kasajian is the new accountant, and Elise Johnson is the new senior center director, right? To my right, your left, is Kathy Spofford, town clerk. Dr. Teresa Morse, the selectman. Chaz Sexton-Duranian, also selectman. Who's the chairman now? Chaz? Okay, Chaz is chairman. Mr. Joe Shank is a selectman, and our town administrator, Eric Schlegel. And I already mentioned Jane Friedman, our town council. And over to my far right is members of the finance committee, Don Hayes and Geraldine Bezikas. So we're getting close. Does anyone have any announcements? Well, actually, well, when we get into the meeting, I have an announcement to make, but any announcements anybody wants to so submit to the public forum here? No? All right, well, we got another one here. Mr. Raposa, thank you. Yep. Oh, Irene. Yeah. You get the microphone, Irene.
Sorry, my voice is not the best. Tomorrow, November 15th, is America Recycles Day, and Townsend is doing great. We have a great recycling going on. We have a wonderful recycling program at the curb. We have a great recycling center at 33 Greenville Road, and we just received a DEP grant, and we keep on doing wonderful things. So keep it up, and we have a lot of information on our website. The biggest one is recyclesmartma.org, which has all the information that you need for the entire state on what can be recycled.
Okay. Thank you, Irene. Let's see. Okay. Oh, here she comes. Okay, good. Thank you. Just you make sure that Mary Jane Churchill doesn't leave. Well, I think we could put it to the folks that were good enough to get here by now. We do have a presentation about the MBTA communities law, which is basically just a presentation. It was put on the warrant for Article 5, but it's not, I guess, it's more informative. So unless there is an objection, I think we could move to that item now, and we will not have to take it up. Any concerns about that, Madam Counsel? Okay. All right. Any objections? Will give us something to learn here. All right. I'm going to just call Article 5. This article allows for presentation on the steps to be taken to bring town into compliance with the MBTA communities legislation. I guess. Is there a presentation? Do you want to use the the podium here? Do you want to use this? Yeah, I think I can probably get a punch out that, Kath.
I'll keep an eye on the form.
Oh, getting there. Okay. Almost there.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm doing this a little earlier than I originally thought, so I will try to keep this brief. I'm working with the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission to help Townsend create a compliant MBTA district according to the MBTA Communities Law that most people have at least heard about at this point.
Hold on, excuse me, hold on a minute. Can everybody hear?
Okay.
All right, so everyone, we haven't officially convened the meeting. We have one short, but if you would please give your attention to, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Jonathan Voss.
John, okay. So if we could keep down the backroom discussions. If you need to say something, please step outside while he does his presentation. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm a regional planner with the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission. We've been helping Townsend through technical assistance to become compliant with the MBTA communities. And this is just a public information session to provide a little bit of background knowledge about what's been going on and where the town is with those efforts after a number of months on working on this project. So just for some background, the Economic Development Bond Bill, which was signed in January 2021, amended Chapter 40A, Section 3A to require zoning ordinance or bylaws that provide for at least one district of reasonable size in which multifamily housing is permitted as of right. The multifamily housing has to be without age restrictions and suitable for families with children, and it has to be a district of reasonable size. The reasonable size in this case means it has to allow for a gross density of 15 units per acre, which also meets the minimum number of units each community has been designated to achieve. The requirements for Townsend specifically as an adjacent small town, not being, having a MBTA commuter rail station, but being adjacent to a community that does, in this case, Fitchburg. Townsend must create, but not build, dense multifamily zoning to be compliant with Section 3A. The deadline to be compliant in this case is December 31st of 2025, so we still have a little bit of time. There's no requirement for the specific location of the compliant zone in Townsend, as there is no MBTA commuter rail station in the community. Although Townsend must zone for at least 178 multifamily units at a density of approximately 15 units an acre, which is about 12 acres if you're keeping with that 15 units per acre density. The MBTA community zone, to be compliant, must be by right, and it cannot have any restrictions such as age restriction or anything along those lines, although you do have a number of options for reaching compliance, and one of those is you can make use of an overlay zone, so you don't have to disturb any pre-existing zoning that's been done in the community. And also, the zoned area does not have to be one singular location. An MBTA overlay district in this case, which is the option the town has been looking most closely at, would allow for current uses of existing zoning districts without interference, and it does not prevent additional single-family residences from being built where such zoning already exists, which is the vast majority of the town. It only allows for denser multifamily housing to be built without necessarily requiring it. The developer is responsible for the building, not the community. The community is not responsible for building out any infrastructure. If it is required, that would be all on the developer. And the MBTA overlay district can allow for mixed-use commercial without also requiring it, so there is the possibility of incorporating some level of mixed-use development without necessarily requiring it in any bylaws that would be written. And the design standards and bylaw specifications are up to the community without restrictions, as long as it doesn't violate any of the state mandated requirements the community is responsible for meeting. Right here, there's a small map. There's another one on the back of one of the handouts if you want a closer look. But after a number of iterations, Townsend went from a count of 10 potential districts that we identified over the course of several months to these final 3 that we identified as being the most suitable and the most feasible and adhering to the spirit as well as the written law for the MBTA communities, without also conflicting with any existing overlay districts, of which there are several in the community, especially the Aquifer Protection Overlay District. Each of these districts meets the size requirements to meet the threshold of having 15 units per acre, while also meeting the 178 multifamily units Townsend is obligated to zone for. And there are a number of options for what these units, if they were to be built, could potentially look like. And I cannot emphasize this enough. We're not building them. It's just a zone for them to possibly allowed to be built. And some existing zoning that's already in Townsend that meets the definitions of the dense multifamily housing. So there is a limited selection that currently exists in the town. We just have to zone for that to be potentially expanded. I'm glad you asked that, because there we go. And there's a little bit more detail on the specifications of the MBTA communities law in the handout I believe most people have received. And if not, there are additional ones that can be provided and at the front. But yes, any questions?
Okay, we're going to need someone with another microphone if we got one, unless we can pass it around.
Feel free to use this one for right now. There we go.
Thank you.
I'm just curious, where did the 178 come from? How is that determined?
That is determined in the state when DHCD, or the department formerly known as DHCD, was creating the designations. They took a look at the pre-existing housing stock in all of the communities, and originally, after the pushback of mandating 750 units be zoned for in every community, they changed that to a proportion system for communities that were designated as non-MBTA commuter communities. So any adjacent small town was then brought down to just needing to have a proportion of existing housing stock be additionally zoned for as dense multifamily units. Correct, which is a little over 2,200 in Townsend currently.
Any other questions on the presentation? Oh, back there, looks like Mr. Snee.
Jonathan Snaith. What happens if the town doesn't come in compliance?
Great question. There are a number of issues with that. They're laid out a little bit more in the handout, but it is a mandate by the state. There is no designated opt-out mechanism. It has been made fairly clear by the Attorney General at this point that the state is exploring being able to force compliance if the community hasn't achieved it by the end of their designated period. But also, it has been made explicitly clear that it will prevent the town from being able to receive funding from a number of state grant programs. In this case, a lot of street and road funding, and it would also make it very difficult to be competitive for any additional grants that aren't explicitly talked about in the future, especially if you're competing with about 178 other communities, and MBTA community compliance would be looked at for a significant portion of grants, especially with the infrastructure grants that are coming down the pipeline over the next several years.
Okay, question here. James?
I would just like to make a comment on that too, because that's a very important fact. Number one is the law is that we need to have a plan. It doesn't say that we have to build it. It says that we have to have a plan. I want to thank the Land Use Department. I want to thank MRPC for all the work, and I wanted to let everybody know that this has been a multi-board collaborative effort in regards to looking, researching, and finding out what we can do. Number two, I think is most important is if we don't go forward with the plan, we are putting ourselves in jeopardy of not being able to get grant money going forward. The Board of Selectmen is looking into trying to find funding and grants, especially for roads and infrastructure, to build a lot or rebuild a lot of sections of town that we need. We all know how the road conditions are. Not being able to have a plan will put in jeopardy some of the future grants that we are looking to be able to apply for. So please keep that in mind.
Mr. Melanson.
Todd Melanson, 79 Clement Road, and I'm also a water commissioner. I have a question. If we didn't go ahead with would this also X us out of like applying for SRF loans with the state for water projects and things like that?
I don't know if it would specifically prohibit you from being able to apply for any grants there, but it is being looked at as a contributing factor for competitiveness for any competitive grants in the state. It's at this point, it's hasn't been explicitly labeled something that would be just off the table, but.
So SRF is really, really competitive for most of their projects for drinking water and things like that. So it would probably put us behind the eight ball.
Most likely.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Madela.
Yes, Nathan Madela, 23 Brookline Street. My question is, if we don't like this little gem of legislation, which agency would be the best to complain to?
That is a great question. There are a number. You could go to your representative directly. They've been pretty vocal about any complaints and difficulty. The pushback the state got from them on the original guidance issuance had these burden reduced drastically. Outside of that, it would be probably the governor's office or the executive office of housing and livable communities.
Okay, questions?
Thank you.
Not a problem.
Questions come on the motion. Mr. Therian.
I want to introduce myself. I'm Robert Therian. I'm on your town planning board, and I am on your town bylaw committee. And I am an architect, And I've been involved with this MBTA program with a lot of questions from much earlier, over a year now. I'm also a member of the Town and Urban Planners Association of the state. So I just want people to understand, I'm not here to tell you how to act or to vote or anything, because I have multiple hats. One is a citizen and one is a person working for you in town government here. But there are some things that you should probably be aware of in considering all of this. The first thing that I'm saying as far as your planning board member, we have worked with this Neshoba consultant, and he's done a very impressive job of eliminating a lot of things, or helping us determine what kind of locations may be of merit. So I'm not criticizing his efforts at all. In fact, I'm complimenting on them. However, as a member of the planning board has to enforce the local zoning bylaws that we have. And so now that takes me into several other personalities here. One, as far as community development analysis and recommendations to people that study community development, they basically have three categories: urban, suburban, and rural. So if you identify those different community types, what's being proposed here at 15 units per acre is an urban zoning district in our community. So I want you to understand, this is 15 units per acre. We have a zoning bylaw that requires 2 parking spaces per unit. We have a zoning bylaw that says building heights can't exceed 35 feet. So when you look at what we have for our current standards for housing in this community, this totally throws that all out the window. Then you look at it in other respects about services, which has been presented already as far as water goes, and then transportation. Our fire department is not equipped for a 5-story building. So in there they say it's supposed to accommodate a variety, of building family profiles and types. But if I physically think as an architect of putting 15 units on an acre, it pretty much would dictate that I'd have studio and 1-bedroom apartments, each requiring 2 parking spaces apiece. So obviously, from a developer's standpoint, somebody investing in building these buildings, they're going to have a challenge with that. So even though it says we can control our own zoning on it, in essence, it would discredit the intent of what they're trying to achieve. And so what happens next? Because if it can't be produced in reality, realistically and economically, then I'm afraid the state will have the same kind of mandate they gave us this, saying, okay, well, it doesn't work, so now you have to change your zoning to make this work. So I have, on a personal, townsperson level, are very upset that there was no warning of this legislation coming, and there was no input into how this could be done. And I, as an architect, I question how they come up with 15 units per acre when in reality, I don't know how I would be able to design a building that would meet all those requirements for a commercial developer. And in the construction industry alone, when we do multifamily housing, we don't use odd numbers. The whole construction industry is based on even numbers. So I don't know who developed that and what they were thinking. It doesn't seem that adequate thought was put into it. Now, going back to the earlier presentations when this was first introduced to the communities, I was willing to accept this. And but then the more I tried to come up with ways that would apply in our community. In other words, I'm like, oh, okay, well, we have to come up with 195 units. Okay, so I'm saying, okay, well, maybe we can collect 5 over here and 6 over here and, actually deliver 185 units with all having them all high density concentrated together. Well, when I presented that as a concept and I presented it to our planning board, the board thought it was a great approach. But when I presented to the state, no, they won't allow you to do that. And I'm like, wait a minute, we're not getting any concession from the state on this. Do you know what I mean? I don't mind delivering 185 units. I'm certainly not against housing. But why isn't there some movement? Why isn't there some willingness to come up with a compromise? But everything is black and white and absolute, and if you don't do it, they're going to deny the town the funding as a penalty. And that's what I find most disturbing here. I understand the need for housing. I understand an interest in optimizing our transportation systems, including buses and commuter rails. And I'm not opposed to any of that. And I'm not opposed to growth in Townsend. We all have to do what we do. But this is a character change. This is the discrete character change, and without allowing us, as a sovereign town, to determine how we're going to meet the requirement.
Bob, I hate to interrupt you, but I'd like you to try to wrap it up because we still need to convene the meeting and get to the other business. And this is only informational. There's nothing. We don't have to vote on this.
Right.
I hear what you're saying about the state's, if I can paraphrase you, high-handedness about this. But if you could conclude your comments so we can convene the meeting.
I will, John. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go that far. But
you're very eloquent.
But the point here is there's a lot of issues here, and it involves 177 communities. So we're not alone. And I just want the public to understand or have a voice in how this can be executed without being mandated and penalized for not doing it the way they want to do it.
Thank you, Mr. Therian.
Thank you.
All right, I understand we do have a quorum, so I declare this special town meeting November 14th in order. First thing, I think we should pledge allegiance to the flag. So if you all will stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. And I would like also to take, well, this is the announcement I wanted to make. I'd like us all to have a moment of silence for Tubby Boucher, who passed away this past week. Tubby was a member of the Parks and Cemetery Commission for 48 years. And I think almost all of you must know Tubby. He was a fixture here in Townsend, so I'd like to bow our heads for a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you all. Madam Clerk, is there a return of the warrant?
Is it working? Yep. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Pursuant to the within warrant, I have notified and warned the inhabitants of the town of Townsend by posting up attested copies of the same at Memorial Hall, 272 Main Street at the center, West Townsend Reading Room, 264 Dudley Road in West Townsend, the Police Center, the Police Station, 70 Brookline Road, Harbor Fire Station, 47 Main Street, and the Harbor Church, 80 Main Street, at least 14 days before the date of the meeting as within directed. Constable Michelle Dold.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. And that brings us to the warrant. And Article 1, to see if the town will vote to, sorry, I can't read this with my glasses on, transfer from free cash or other available funds in the Treasury the sum of $13,332.47 or any other sum for the purpose of paying prior fiscal year bills for various vendors or take any other action in relation thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash in the Treasury the sum of $13,332.47 or any other sum for the purpose of paying prior fiscal bills for various vendors.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Is there anything to be said? And there is a handout that gives everyone a little bit of an explanation about this article. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, it appears we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 1, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Article 2, to see if the town will vote to amend its vote under Article 5 of the May 2nd, 2023 annual town meeting to remove the sum of $349,760 in ARPA funding from the approved budget and to amend certain line items within said budget as follows. And I'm not going to read all of those items. They're printed in the warrant, and I presume it will be in the motion. So is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Shank.
I move that the town vote to amend its vote under Article 5 of the May 2nd, 2023 annual town meeting to remove the sum of $349,760 in ARPA fundings from the approved budget and to amend certain line items within said budget as follows. Do you want me to read every one of them?
If there's a motion to accept the warrant article as written in the warrant, I think we could proceed along those lines unless there's an objection. Any objection to waiving the reading of the items? They are, correct me if I'm wrong, they are as appear in the warrant that you have. No objections? Okay, are any questions on these, this article? Doesn't appear to be any. I guess we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 2, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of $431,000 or any other sum from the state revolving fund loan proceeds for capital expenditures for fiscal year 2024 for the following items. Safety railing and cable system for the Highland tank, $11,000. Purchase of the gate exerciser vacuum trailer and equipment, $100,000. Purchase of the F-350 utility truck and equipment, $100,000. For purchase of a CAT 440 backhoe, $170,000. And planning and engineering for proposed Lunenburg Road water tank, $50,000. Or take any other action in relation thereto. Is there a motion? Dr. Morse.
I move that the town...
There you go.
I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $431 for the, or any other sum for the state revolving fund loan proceeds for capital expenditures for fiscal year 2024 for the following items: safety railing and cable systems for the highway tank, $11,000; purchase of gate exerciser and vacuum trailer and equipment, $100,000; purchase F-350 utility truck and equipment, $100,000; purchase CAT 450 backhoe, $170,000; planning and engineering for proposed Lunenburg Road water tank, $50,000.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded on Article 3. Is there any discussion? Okay, I don't see any hands. Apparently no questions, comments. Appears we're ready to vote on Article 3. Oh, sorry. Mr. Therian or Mr. Baldwin, one of the two?
I'm sorry, I don't know what a gate exerciser, vacuum trailer, and equipment is. What?
No question comes on the motion about the gate exerciser. Mr. Melanson?
So it's a trailer, so we all have gates. It's what allows us to turn the valves in the water system on and off. They are the little large caps that you see. Those need to get cleaned and exercised. There's an actual program so that we know that they work, which ones need to be repaired, replaced, what have you. The vacuum allows us to clean those out because they get filled with dirt and stuff like that, so you actually can't get a key on them to turn them. This also gives us the ability to do, like if you have to go to someone's curb stop, which is the shut off in your front yard, instead of digging a big hole, it's basically a small hydro excavator. You use water and it backs up the soil, so you can be a lot more precise in a smaller hole dug. It's to get the gates in the system working like it should, and we know which ones we are and do infrastructure management, it is a device that's needed.
Okay, comments and answer come on the motion for Article 3. Any other questions? Appears we're ready to vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Article 4. That's, all right. I'm going to take motions. To see if the town will vote to appropriate from the PEG Access Receipts Reserved Account the sum of $44,695.59, funds equal to 5% of the Comcast's gross annual revenues in Townsend for the fourth quarter of fiscal year 23, subject to receipt and availability, and authorize the Board of Selectmen and the Town Administrator to expend and distribute said funds to Townsend Community Access Media, Inc. on a quarterly basis for the purpose of annual funding of the production and broadcast of public educational and government PEG access television on terms contained in a certain grant agreement between the Town of Townsend, Mass. And the Townsend Community Access Media, Inc., effective September 15th, 2020, or take any other action in relation thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to appropriate from the PEG Access Receipts Reserved Account the sum of $44,695.59, funds equal to 5% of Comcast gross annual revenues in Townsend for the fourth quarter of fiscal year 23, subject to receipt and availability, and authorize the Board of Selectmen and Town Administrator to expend and distribute said funds to Townsend Community Access Media, Inc. on a quarterly basis for the purpose of annual funding of the production and broadcast of public, educational, and government PEG access television on terms contained in a certain grant agreement between the Town of Townsend, Mass. And Townsend Community Access Media, Inc., effective September 15th, 2020.
Okay, motion's and seconded. Is there anything to be said? Any questions? All right, well, I'm going to raise a question. What is this used for? How is it expended? What is it used for, if I could ask?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So this funds TCAM, so you see Mr. Fonioli in the back and all of the equipment that he uses to broadcast all of the public boards and commission meetings, to transmit them through Comcast, so they're live on TV, and to upload them to YouTube. These are the funds that fund that entity.
Oh, okay, all right. So is it just then for funding the broadcast of the meetings of the town, or are there other things that can be used for? I always had the sense that there was community access there, and I'm just wondering how far out does that go with this?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, through you. There is a variety of things that are done just in not just the meetings of the town, but yes, they do assist in getting the recordings. That's why we had to redo the selectmen's chambers in order to affect all of the meetings in town hall so that they can be broadcast so people can see that. That's number one. Number two is any other functions that we've had in the community. They've been at the VFW with the Easter egg hunt. They've been with Memorial Day Parade. They do a lot of that stuff. One of the unused resources is that anybody in town is able to access and be able to produce their own content if they needed to, that had to do with either government or educational or whatever. So the ability, they have a studio that's on 222 Main Street right now that's currently in construction. It has been in construction. The town has been working very closely with TCAM in regards to getting not only town hall set up to be able to broadcast any type of function, but allow them to have the community do it. It would be nice if somebody in town could sit down and have a talk show about what's going on in town or whatever. That's all available to the town free of charge.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sexton Duranian. I knew there was more to it than just appropriating money, so I wanted to make sure that people were aware of that, and I was a little unclear myself. All right, any other questions, comments? I guess I used up my time. All right, it looks like we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 4, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. It's unanimous. And we already dealt with Article 5. Before I call for a motion to dissolve, I'm just going to confirm that on Article 1, the vote was unanimous, because it did require a 4/5 vote, right? Oh, 9/10 for a special, right? Does anybody object to that? Okay, unanimous. I forgot to write it down. Motion's been made to dissolve. Is there a second? Second. All right. All those in favor of dissolving the meeting, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. No. Oh, the ayes have it. Sorry. You can meet here longer if you want.